Am I the a-hole for telling my half-siblings I won't drop my dad for them? When I, 24, male was 7, my mom died. I had 2 younger half-siblings who were 4 and 3 at a time. They had different dads. The older of my 2 half-siblings was born as the result of an affair my mom had while she was married to my dad. He found out about the affair before my mom gave birth and got a DNA test so he wouldn't have to be responsible for the baby. He had to do the same again because my mom got pregnant before the divorce was finalized and had to prove he wasn't the father. It was apparently a really big fight because she wanted him to raise the 3 of us, and he said never. My mom had primary custody of me and full custody of my half-siblings because neither of their dads was in the picture. When my mom died, I went to live with my dad and my half-siblings were separated from each other and placed apart. I never saw them again for the rest of our childhoods. But eventually, as I learned, our mom's family was found and took them both in. They had no idea we existed. They reached out to me last year. We talked some. They told me about mom's family. They asked about my life. It was going okay between us for a while. But then they started to tell me my dad was an a-hole and ask how he could have let them go into foster care, saying he was responsible for separating us. They told me I shouldn't have anything more to do with him. They didn't like that I was close with my dad. I said we needed to drop that line of conversation, but they wouldn't. They said he should have never allowed us to be separated and that a real man would have taken them in when they had nobody else. They've opened up about how crappy the time they spent in foster care was, and they blame my dad for it. Even if it makes me an a-hole, I don't blame him. He's not their father and wasn't in their lives when our mom was alive. I try to keep building a relationship with them, but when they gave me an ultimatum, I told them I wouldn't drop my dad for them. They told me to go to hell and said I was a disgusting POS for standing by him. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Why are you even asking? Perhaps if your half-siblings are cheated on, they will understand better. Their situation is the responsibility of their mother and her affair partners, not your dad. Yeah, exactly. They're half-siblings after all, not the person that raised you. Right? OP's dad was there for him, and that's what matters. They're OP's half-siblings, but they didn't raise you. It's not about blood, it's about who showed up for you when it counted. They should be investing that energy into finding their own POS deadbeat father who abandoned them while their mother was alive. Your father is in no way related to them and owes them absolutely nothing. Not the a-hole. Fathers, they have different dads. And they are searching, but so far nothing has come from it. So they expected your father to take in the children of a woman who cheated on him and got pregnant from 2 different men while they were married? They're literally unhinged. Your mother was for the streets, OP, and it seems they are too. Who the heck behaves that way? You are definitely not the a-hole. Seems like they're projecting because where are those same feelings for their deadbeat asswipes of a dad who abandoned them? Where's the outrage over that? Tell them to keep that same energy. They're not even mad at them from what I can figure out. Just my dad. Next story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to attend my estranged father's funeral only to find out he left me everything in his will? So here's the deal. I, 28 female, had a terrible relationship with my dad. He walked out on my mom and me when I was 10 and only popped up in my life when he needed something, usually money or a favor. He remarried, had 2 other kids, and basically acted like I didn't exist. When I turned 18, I decided I was done with him. No calls, no visits, nothing. He tried reaching out a few times over the years, but it always felt forced, so I ignored him. My mom passed away a few years ago and I didn't even hear from him then. It solidified my decision to cut him off for good. Fast forward to a month ago. I got a call from his wife saying he had passed away unexpectedly. She was sobbing and asked if I'd come to the funeral. I said no. I didn't feel anything. No grief, no sadness, just nothing. Why should I show up to mourn someone who was there for me when I needed him? His wife begged me to reconsider, saying it would mean a lot to his family. She even said my half-siblings wanted me there to heal old wounds. But I still refused. I told her I made my peace with him being out of my life a long time ago. A week after the funeral, I got a call from a lawyer. Turns out, my dad left a will, and in it, he left everything to me. His house, his savings, his car, everything. His wife and kids got absolutely nothing. I was floored. I didn't even know he had that much to leave behind. The lawyer told me my dad had tried to make amends and felt guilty about abandoning me, so he wanted to make things right. Now his wife and kids are furious with me, saying I stole their inheritance and didn't even have the decency to show up at the funeral. I feel conflicted. On one hand, I didn't ask for any of this. On the other hand, I get why they're mad. I didn't have a relationship with my dad, but now I'm walking away with everything, while they're left with nothing. Am I the a-hole? Edit. I've decided to meet with a lawyer tomorrow to give everything back to the wife and her family. They're still angry at me and I can't blame them. What my dad did was messed up. I wouldn't want to leave them in the position my dad left my mother and I. I don't think I have the heart to respond to any more comments, but I do appreciate all the love and support I received. Thank you all. Plot twist. Absentee dad leaves you the main character inheritance, and now you're the villain in someone else's story. Honestly, it's a wild plot twist, but the truth is, I don't even want the money. I'm doing fine on my own, and it just feels wrong. Like dirty money, honestly. It's coming from someone who wasn't there when I needed him and only try to make amends at the last minute. I'd rather move forward without any of it than be tied to him in that way. It's funny how people can see it as a win, when to me, it's just a reminder of everything I never had from him. To me, this seems like your father was giving a middle finger to his widow and younger children while roping you, the child he abandoned, into his second family drama. I'm sorry, but he seems like a massive a-hole all around to every family he ever created, and I'm sorry he put you in the middle of it. He made you the bad guy and threw a wrench into his entire family all over again like crap. If you are in the States, the wife can contest the will and she will get something. In the States, a person who is married cannot disinherit their spouse. Just be aware of this because if she starts telling people, someone will enlighten her. Was wondering about this. Doesn't seem in any state's interest for families to be rendered homeless on spouse's whim or neglect. That is the opposite of my intention. I want to let them live in the house they grew up in. I don't want to take that away from them. I'll be meeting with a lawyer tomorrow. Next story. Am I the a-hole for helping my sister leave our parents' house and doing nothing for my much younger siblings? My parents had me 19 male and my sister 18 female when they were 20 and 21, me, and 21 and 22, my sister. They never really parented us. Most of the time, we were left home alone when we were way too young. We had to learn to fend for ourselves. We missed a lot of school and didn't always look well cared for either, but we didn't have extended family around us, and our parents never had friends over, so we were pretty isolated and ignored. I was 8 when I started attending school regularly, and my sister was 7. That only happened because our parents got in some trouble, so they told us we were big enough to get ourselves up and to school every morning. It wasn't easy, and the two of us bonded over the unfairness. When I was 11 and my sister was 10, our parents had another baby together. This was the start of them having kids like crazy. They had 5 kids in 7 years, and my sister and I were forced to be responsible for them. Our parents were home more with those kids, but they did nothing. They were too busy making more kids to raise the ones they already had. During my mom's pregnancies, we were also expected to wait on her, and that sucked. Our parents made life really difficult if we tried to stop helping. I spoke to teachers, and CPS was called a few times, but nothing was ever done to help us. So I left on my 18th birthday, slept rough for a few weeks, was able to get help at a shelter, got a job, and found a place to rent. I kept in touch with my sister and we planned for her to come and live with me when she turned 18. She turned 18 in December and moved straight in with me. I told her she should try to finish school since I didn't. There was no point for me. My grades sucked. I'm working to support us and she's got a part-time job now so she can help. We're going to make it work together. Our parents tried to report my sister missing and created a huge fuss over her leaving. When we found out, she corrected it, but that gave our parents more current info on us. They found out where we live, at least the neighborhood, and I see them when I walk to work. They told me I should be ashamed for moving my sister out like I did, and ask, What about the younger kids? Who's supposed to take care of them? I told them they had kids, so they should take care of them. They said I know they won't and that we've left the little ones with nobody. My mom's pregnant again and probably due anytime now from the looks of it, so there are even more kids than before. I know my parents won't take care of any of them. I know that I should probably step up more, but I never felt close to the younger kids. I took care of them because I had to, because I was forced, but I never loved them or did it willingly, and I don't want to be responsible for them again. My sister feels the same and she told me she called CPS and reported it. But that's all she's willing to do. She said she's done with it because she wants to focus on the two of us. Am I the a-hole for doing all this for her and not doing enough for them? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. So sorry for your lost childhood. Cherish your freedom and never ever feel guilty. Trying to. It's a lot of hard work but less depressing than before. You should try to at least try for a GED, so at some point you can hopefully go to trade school. Go get your GED. Life will be harder if you don't. I know, but I'm really not cut out for school, and I need to work to make this work for us. Otherwise, we're even more screwed. Last story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to mend things with my oldest sister? My sister, 45 female, and I, 31 female, have had no contact for the last 10 years. Our kids have had no contact either. 10 years ago, I was freshly divorced with primary custody of my 2 kids. Making minimum wage and barely scraping by, my sister told me she should help pay for us to visit home and stay with her family in California during the summer. For months, I picked up side jobs and flipped furniture on top of working to pay for the 2-week trip. I saved just enough to cover flights, time off from work, and extra cash for activities. I was excited to see her. My parents were in and out of my life growing up. My younger siblings and I spent a lot of time being raised by our older sister, aunts, and cousins. Big Sis was always my rock. This would be the first time she would meet my kids. We had a good visit generally. My oldest son, 4 years old at a time, had undiagnosed autism and a bucket of trauma from living with DV during my marriage. He struggled to be away from me, had night terrors, and refused to listen to my sister. I realized he wasn't ready to meet new family members, but it was too late. We were there, and a hotel wasn't in the budget. While staying with her, I learned I had an interview for a dream job in San Francisco, about 2 hours from her by train. The job paid 5 times what I had been making, offered real benefits and PTO, etc. However, I needed to stay overnight in the city because the interview had 2 parts, the second part being early the next morning. I told Big Sis and she was thrilled for me. I asked her to babysit my kids and she agreed. I borrowed some of her old corporate clothes and headed to San Francisco. During day 1 interviews, she called and texted me repeatedly. Thinking there was an emergency, I asked to be excused from the interview to return her call. She told me my son was acting like a demon, calling her names and refusing to listen. I gave her tips to de-escalate the situation, but she didn't want them. She wanted me to leave San Francisco and come home. She refused to watch him any longer. I apologized to my interview panel, asked to reschedule over Zoom, and caught the next train back. When I arrived, my 4-year-old was locked in a bedroom. He was bruised from hitting his arms and head on the door while trying to escape. Others in the house said he had been in there for almost 6 hours, and my sister had locked him in. I confronted my sister, and she blamed me for not leaving the abusive relationship sooner and for not getting sole custody. Her husband joined the conversation, and they told me I needed to take my kids and fly home immediately. I had no money to change our tickets. I'd spent what I had left on train tickets and lunch in the city. I was 21, with 0 financial history, no credit cards, couldn't even rent a car. Our flight home was in 2 days. I begged them to let us stay a little longer, explaining I had no money for a room until our flight. They started packing our things before I could and helped pile them outside. My sister apologized and tried to hug me as we got into an Uber I couldn't afford and headed to Oakland Airport. My boys, 4 and 2 years old, spent the next 36 hours sitting outside baggage check at Oakland Airport, surrounded by unhoused individuals and addicts. Our airline managed to get us on a slightly earlier flight free of charge. We huddled by an outlet to keep their iPad charged and ate granola bars and Doritos from a vending machine. We had to move all our luggage together because someone had already tried to steal my diaper bag when I went to get water without it. It was a total nightmare for me and, more importantly, for my 4-year-old, who blamed himself for their reaction at our situation. He watched me get sexually propositioned, called names, and more, all while sitting with 2 very young kids in the cold at Oakland Airport. When we got home, I blocked her and her family and started trying to heal from this and a divorce. After many years estranged, my mother and I now have an okay relationship. She's moving in with my big sister and wants me to mend things so we can all visit together. Here's the thing, I ended up rescheduling the interview, which started what has turned out to be a lucrative career. As a single mom, I worked my way up the corporate ladder, and we live well. My mom says my sister wants me to help pay for expenses. Meanwhile, we have 3 other brothers, one of whom, 29 male, lives in my guest house while he finally receives mental health care. I've probably spent the most time estranged from my sister, and I'm a single parent living in one of the world's most expensive cities. We started having short visits with my mom these past few years, and they're going well. Mom is worried I won't visit her anymore after she moves in with Big Sis. I've suggested paying for my mom to visit us, or renting an Airbnb somewhere cool, but she's not interested. My mom wants me to rekindle things with Big Sis, but my feelings are these. 1, they probably need money and I have it. 2, I am still so angry at my sister. 3, I just bought a house and put my now 14-year-old son with autism into a private school for ASD kids with high intellect. Expensive. 4, even if I had extra cash to send their way, no. I've only just started mending things with my mom. Every time I think about how we got here, I become so angry that I cry. Both my parents left us kids so many times. I never thought my sister would do anything close to this to me and my kids. Am I the a-hole for not wanting to mend things? I've read about how family estrangement causes record-breaking rates of loneliness, mental and physical health issues, and poverty. But I also feel there's no benefit and a lot of risk to my family's well-being by bringing her back into our lives. I've worked so hard to give us a peaceful, normal life, and I'm not prepared to give it up. Your mom is mouth-piercing for your sister. They're after money, not family. Sister hears bro is living in guest house. Now mom is moving there. You have money. She's after it, as is mom. I don't know contact with both. She locked a 4-year-old in a room for 6 hours. Was he even allowed to use the bathroom? Your sister could have found a way to contact you to apologize for what she did, but now she hears you're doing well, she only wants expenses. No, I'd never forgive the sister. Screw her, and to be honest, screw your mom too. She's got some nerve making demands when you've offered options. You give an inch, and look, they're immediately trying to take the mile. And then kicked them out, forcing them to spend 36 hours in the airport.